Well, here we go. The arrival of President Donald Trump. He's going to be...
Tower to Trump Force One, you are clear to land. Welcome to Wilmington, North Carolina.
Copy that. Great to be back in North Carolina. Let's make America great again.
And there you have it, the pilots of Trump Force One talking to the control tower. Trump Force One, about 300 feet off the ground right now, going to be making his way. They're going to land. They're going to come back and taxi, just like we saw before. He's going to come back right behind the grandstands here, and he's going to make his entrance.
Because they think his supporters are a bunch of children, the Trump campaign played what sounded like pre-recorded interactions with what would be air traffic control over the PA before he showed up in North Carolina.
President Trump has arrived in Wilmington, North Carolina on a warm Saturday afternoon.
You know, because air traffic control is interested in your campaign slogans instead of keeping aircraft safe. It's this kind of stuff that they've cultivated in their followers that allows Trump to advocate for the most ridiculous things and pass it off as policy.
And being a bitch.
Random moments of laughter being passed off as a reason to vote for one way or another. As long as the crowd boos, they take it as a sign that they're getting their message across.
Yes, I just wanted to ask you, last weekend you talked about creating stories so the media pays attention to American people's suffering.
Could you start at the beginning and then repeat the question a little louder?
Last week, you talked about creating stories so the media pays attention to people's suffering. But when those stories aren't necessarily verified by fact, are you saying those things because you're really just trying to gin up the base? Or are you, and I guess my question is, are you guys still really trying to win over voters that might not already be in the camp?
Look. What? It's well, that's my first response to the question is boo. That's exactly what we're doing here.
It's lazy politics. They've convinced their base that it's worse to ask their VP candidate why he made up stories about innocent people that are contributing to a community than it is to make up stories about innocent people that have fled potentially deadly circumstances. If you got crowds that are willing to accept that in their leaders, you can tell them anything, and they'll believe it.
And we will rapidly defeat inflation. So inflation is a misnomer because the inflation is now getting stabilized because our country is doing badly.
Wait, say what? Inflation stabilizing means the country's doing badly. This right after saying he's going to rapidly defeat inflation. Would defeating inflation mean the country's doing badly just like he claimed it was over inflation stabilizing? He literally doesn't have to even consider what he's about to say because they'll eat it up no matter what. He's proven over and over that he's wildly clueless on this stuff.
16 Nobel Prize-winning economists are predicting that a Trump victory would set off what they call an inflation bomb. They say it would cause lasting harm to the global economy.
They were talking about the fact that Trump would be a lot more inflationary. Is that how you view Trump 2.0?
Yes, I do. I mean, just think about the policies he's putting forward. And here, of course, I'm assuming that he gets roughly what he wants. But if he does, then it's going to add to inflation. I mean, the tariffs by themselves are going to be quite significant, 10% across the board. He's talked about 60% on Chinese imports into this country. His immigration policy, particularly deportations, I mean, that, you know, if he actually could follow through on that, that would be highly disruptive to leisure hospitality, retailing, the mining industry, agriculture, you know, food prices would go back up.
They listen to the guy that says tariffs are paid by the country sending the goods in and completely dismiss the factual and historical evidence that proves the opposite. So in Magaland, inflation's bad. unless Trump's policies are causing it. Then it's like a cash balloon that'll blast trillions of dollars over our heads when it explodes. It's confirmed. Trump said so.
So, Michael, you better win or you're never going to be able to come back here. If he doesn't win, he won't be at RNC and he will no longer be in North Carolina. He'll be looking for a job. I think he's going to win, and that's what he's focused. I said, you know, we don't need votes. What we need is honesty in the election. If we have honesty, we have all the votes we need.
Yeah, no matter what he's talking about, there's always a reminder baked into the propaganda that the elections are fraudulent and proof is unnecessary. It's one of the main elements of their belief system. Now, another is what he began his political career off of. The migrant boogeymen are everywhere.
And what a shame that is, right? What a shame that is. And you see how bad it's getting when you look at what's going on with the migrants attacking villages and cities all throughout the Midwest in particular right now, but it's all over.
You see, they're like goblins in a fantasy story, pillaging villages of their cattle and water supply. You know, grandma was churning some butter out on the prairie when she saw 10,000 migrants of military fighting age consuming the land as they approached her. There's no name for these villages, just random regions in the Midwest. But he also says it's all over. Trump's North Carolina story time, that oddly didn't have the Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson around, took a weird turn when he thought he was addressing women and what they've been through.
So let's talk about our great women, all right? Because women have gone through a lot. They've gone through a lot. Women are poorer than they were 4 years ago, are less healthy than they were 4 years ago, are less safe on the streets than they were 4 years ago, are paying much higher prices for groceries and everything else than they were 4 years ago, are more stressed and depressed and unhappy than they were 4 years ago, and are less optimistic and confident in the future than they were just 4 years ago. I will fix all of that, women. I will fix all of that, and I will fix it fast.
He'll fix it, and he'll fix it fast. That's weird. For a campaign that falsely claims the Harris camp is void of all policy proposals, his has consistently been, I'll fix it, and I'll fix it fast. Will Congress mull over that one-page bill that says Trump will fix it and he'll fix it fast? But I stopped him short, you guys. Maybe the solution's in the rest of his pitch to women.
Women will be happy, healthy, confident, and free. You will no longer be thinking about abortion because it is now where it always had to be, with the states and with the vote of the people. The people are now voting, and many of those votes are far more liberal than we thought. But every legal scholar, every Republican and Democrat for years didn't want it in federal. They wanted it in the states, and a vote of the people, and that's what's happening.
Is there some magic wrapped up in this declaration that the states will suddenly stop women from thinking about reproductive care? Once they stop thinking about their lives, will archaic members of state Supreme Courts or legislators stop ruling based off of their religious texts that they've never read? Have women that want children via IVF stop thinking about it after Senate Republicans, yes, blocked another bill that would ensure protections for IVF? It's odd how everything he says is complete and utter bullshit. This campaign stopped having conversations about policy a long time ago. It's simply a drumbeat of invented dread and devastation that their party's been told to push us towards so that he can capitalize off of the negativity. There's been a lot of talk about tone and rhetoric surrounding these assassination attempts on Trump. But are they listening to the guy that claims it's gotten out of hand?
Our country will be dead if she gets elected. We won't even have a country. It won't be recognizable.
The rhetoric is every day, all day. And as it's directed against President Trump, it's saying that he's a threat to democracy, that he's going to destroy America. It's absolutely absurd, and it is irresponsible. And Democrats and people who are speaking in these terms about President Trump need to take responsibility and really think about the consequence of using that kind of language.